Hello, this is Minisode 23, and today we're talking about the very interesting idea that someone came up with, or you came up with, so I don't know.
Someone came up with quite a while ago now, actually.
There you go, and it's weather. We're talking about weather. What's the weather outside?
Yeah, let's have a look,
Sunny.
shall we?
It's actually sunny.
It is very sunny this week, for once.
Yeah.
No, we're not actually just talking about weather. We're talking about weather in regards to theme parks, obviously, and just how it can either affect it. Basically, some rides can't operate when it's too cold, and then I don't know if some can't operate when it's too hot. Is that a thing?
Mm-hmm.
So, and obviously thunderstorms and everything like that. So I just want to talk about why and, the mechanics behind how weather actually affects rides.
So lots of different types of weather affect theme parks, and it really depends on where the theme parks are located.
Okay.
What you'll find is some theme parks, take for example the theme parks in the UK. If it's raining very heavily, they're just going to continue to operate the rides. Mm-hmm. They don't do that in most places.
Why?
They will stop them because of guest comfort, right?
So basically they're not hardcore enough.
Being just completely, when we went on Icon in the pouring down rain, you get battered. It hurts.
Yeah.
What the Merlin parks do, or Alton Towers specifically, is they announce in the queue that the ride experience might be a bit more uncomfortable than normal because of the weather conditions, but they'll continue to operate it. Whereas when I went to Heidi Park in Germany, Merlin as well, as soon as it started pouring down with rain, they closed the rides.
Right.
And then waited for it to kind of stop.
See, that's mad to me that you would shut a ride just because it's raining.
Yeah, it was raining quite heavily, but...
So it's nothing to do with the fact that the ride can't run. It's literally the only thing is because people don't want to go on the rides. No one queues up for them.
I don't know. I don't really...
Because surely rides are all kind of built the same.
Yeah.
Like a B&M in the UK is the same as a B&M somewhere else.
Pretty much. Yeah. So, no, I think with rain, perhaps maybe the rain can mess with the sensors a little bit if that becomes an issue, but I don't know. I don't feel like rain makes too much a difference to the hardware.
Yeah.
But it's something that they do, and then as you said, in thunderstorms, pretty much every park closes rides in thunderstorms.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously,
for obvious reasons, though.
You don't want to be on a steel roller coaster, when...
A high thing.
Exactly, a tall steel roller coaster when there's lightning going on.
Yeah.
That's just a cause for disaster. So parks will often keep track of the weather, and if lightning is inbound, they'll close in anticipation of.
So is that like a insurance type thing where they kind of have to shut if there's a thunderstorm?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
A lot of them do that. A lot of them will, either just close the rides for a temporary amount of time, or even just close the park.
Yeah.
Just like, we can't operate anymore today.
Because I remember when we were at Gardaland in Italy.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a thunderstorm there. That's pretty much the only time I remember a thunderstorm at a park.
It was a thunderstorm across the lake. They didn't close the park though, did they? It was quite late anyway, to be fair.
Because we went on the viewing
the observation tower. Yeah.
We were high up in the air in this steel thing, and I was like, this is not a good idea. And we could literally just see, well, obviously the whole park looked great, but then across the lake you could just see all these lightning bolts and everything. We were just like, cool, we're just on this ride.
Yeah, it was a great view. Love that.
Slightly worrying.
So rain, thunder, big weather things. Another one to consider is wind.
Yeah, which is one you don't really think about.
Yeah, some rides will close in the wind, and obviously those are more so the type of rides that are more perceptible. Is that the right word?
Susceptible.
Yes. I'll do it again. Don't cut this out. The type of rides that are more susceptible to wind.
Yeah.
Kind of like rides with smaller trains.
Okay.
Or rides that go through certain elements very slowly. Mm-hmm. So if you have a smaller train, the wind will impact the speed of that train more because it weighs less.
Okay. Right. So it can be pushed around more easily.
Exactly. Okay. So if there's a gust of wind, if it's going through the highest point and there's a gust of wind pushing the other way, it might not make it over, right?
Oh dear.
And then same concept with rides that go through certain elements slowly. Take the big one cresting one of its triangular hills.
Yeah.
If it's already going quite slow, and then one gust of wind just pushed against it, again, it might not make it over the hill.
Yeah.
So usually there's anemometers, something like that, which measure wind speed. At the top of usually the highest point of the ride, or somewhere near the highest point of the ride. And then if it gets to a certain kind of speed, they'll just close the attraction completely.
So does each ride have its own kind of restrictions on wind? Is it a universal wind speed that they have to stop, or do they all have different ones?
They all have different ones depending on the type of ride it is.
Okay.
And the kind of logistics to do with the ride as well.
How do they test that?
Don't know. I guess you could probably model it.
Right.
You could,
or kind of work it out.
Well, yes, I imagine they work it out, and then if they find the case that it can stall in lower wind conditions, then they'll change it accordingly, right?
But I reckon they give themselves some wiggle room.
Yeah, of course they do. They'll put the bound lower. I don't feel like a lot of parks have to deal with that, because most rides aren't designed to be going through these elements really slowly.
Right.
You know, they're meant to be usually going through quite quickly.
Yeah.
So that they're never really that susceptible to wind. But it's a problem.
The thing with wind is, wind's like really changeable and unpredictable.
Yeah.
And when we were opening weekend for Blackpool, obviously the weather was ridiculous because it was Storm Dennis, and we were waiting to go on the big one, and they were literally sat in the station waiting for the wind to drop so that we could go. But I don't understand how they can know, because if 1 minute it's too high for you to send a train out and then the next minute it's fine, what's to say it doesn't change by the time we get up the lift hill?
I think it would probably be more of an average wind speed, and I think gusts of wind that they can't do anything about, really, can they? If there's a sudden gust of wind, it's
really
difficult to
worrying,
anticipate. But it's not you're not going to die just because it's
No, but
not going to make it round.
I guess. It's just a bit weird that they try to... I feel like it worries people when... Well, it worries me.
But they don't know what's going on. You know what's going on. The average person at a theme park wouldn't really get why it's closed. I mean, they'd be like, it's closed for wind. But I don't think they'll take parallels between it's closed for wind and this ride might not make it all the way around the circuit. I really don't.
But I think I'd be more worried if I didn't know what it was about, because I'd be like, well, why is it shut and now it's open? Which is kind of the same worries I have now, even though I know the mechanics of it.
We made it round, didn't we? It's fine.
Yeah, but it's just weird.
There you go. We're all good.
Anyway, I'm sure they've run that ride enough times to know what kind of winds it can do.
Definitely.
I guess.
Yeah. So, it's a park on the seaside. What do you expect?
Yeah,
they must know what the limits of it are. So, be surprised if they didn't. Another one, cold. Cold's quite a big one.
Right.
Especially if you've got a theme park that wants to open, in the winter.
Yeah.
And just like maximum wind speeds, rides have minimum temperatures that they can run in.
Okay.
So for like a GCI, I think it's about 1 degree Celsius. It takes to start it, but once it's going, it can drop a bit below that.
Okay, so why does it have a set temperature? What if it goes under that temperature, what's going to happen to the ride?
They might not make it round. Things might not operate. Things might not, the materials might not interact with each other in the correct kind of manner.
So like magnets and things?
Not magnets. More, so...
The wheels?
Yeah, wheels is a big part, and then fluid, so stuff like oil.
Okay.
Like the
consistency
wheels are usually,
of the oil is wrong.
Yeah, so if it's colder, the oil is thicker, and then it doesn't kind of flow as well.
Okay.
So then obviously, if the oil is not flowing well through the wheels, through the bearings of the wheels, then it's going to slow that down. Flowing well on the chain lift might have drag, and it might damage the chain lift. I don't know. And then depending on the type of wheel, some wheels could start cracking if they get too cold.
Oh, okay.
Because they become really brittle rather than being...
so like if they're made of rubber?
Yeah. So instead of being more malleable, when they're hot, they become brittle and then potentially could crack and break.
Okay.
So it's all of those kind of things that all play together. So it's partly, again, not making it round, and then partly something could potentially... Probably wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
You probably have to get quite cold before these things start to break.
So.
But you got to obviously set the limit higher than you'd want to.
So how many rides out there can actually operate in kind of cold temperatures?
Depends. You can order specific ride. You can order... Some companies will make their rides specifically designed to be able to operate in cold temperatures.
Right, so like Taron.
Yeah, like Taron, where it can operate sub-zero.
Yeah.
Because they specifically wanted it to. So I don't know how that works.
So maybe different materials are used?
Yeah, potentially. Or the fact that they've got ways to increase the temperature of certain aspects of the materials to go out. I'm literally just spitballing ideas.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but they manage it, right? So, But a lot of rides will have a minimum temperature that they need to get going. So another big one, snow. If it's snowing, parks have tried to, even if there was snow before, to send their trains around to clear the snow.
What?
Kings Island did it with Mystic Timbers and it didn't make it all the way around.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could have guessed that.
Yeah.
It's just going to plough and like build up the snow, surely.
I heard a story of someone who said that the Efteling, it was snowing, but they wanted to keep Baron open for the next day. So they ran it all the way through the night.
No way.
Or ran it for like in the morning consistently so that it would just kind of every time.
So then no ice or anything could form and
exactly.
have the snow settle on it.
So it was ready to go, but they had to keep running it.
That's really funny.
Yeah, so snow's a big
dedication though.
And again, kind of snow and cold go hand in hand. Like Wicker Man's opening weekend.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. It didn't open. The first weekend Alton Towers opened in 2018 when it was meant to because it was too cold and it was snowing. It just didn't reach the right temperature. And then with kind of cold as well, there's a few different aspects. One, it's not exactly very comfortable always to be on a ride that's going, say, 50 miles per hour, 100 kilometers per hour.
Yeah.
That was really bad. 60 miles per hour, 100 kilometers per hour in the wind, because it's going to make it feel much colder.
Your face goes numb.
If it's already cold and you have a wind chill as well, then, you know, it's not always the most comfortable position. And then if you can imagine being stuck a few, you know, tens of meters high above the ground when it's really windy and really cold, probably not a good idea.
Yeah.
So quite a few parks. It really depends on where you are and the weather, right? So if you've got nice weather, then you can open all year round. But a lot of parks will close certain rides in their winter seasons. You know, they'll say like, this one's not going to open, kind of as a blanket statement. Europa Park does this where they say Silver Star's not going to open in the winter period.
Right.
But if it can open that day, they will open it.
Right.
But the blanket statement is we're not opening it.
Yeah, so there's no expectations.
Yeah, so they limit expectations. Trying to think of what other weather there is.
Hot weather.
Hot weather. Yeah. So hot weather is kind of like the opposite of cold, where things start to run too well.
Well, this was kind of like the most obvious one to me of things just overheating. Because when anything overheats, like technology-wise, you just can't use it anymore.
So the thing to be careful about is launches overheating. So like magnetic launches get hot.
Right.
And when obviously, you're in a hot country.
Yeah.
Apparently, Red Force at Ferrari Land started to overheat at some points. So yeah, the magnets get hot when they're already hot. And then, obviously, I imagine you just can't run them when they get too hot. And then you also get the fact that some rides might be running faster than anticipated.
Yeah.
Like Wicker Man had big problems where it would partially overshoot the brake run because it was running too quickly, and then the brake run couldn't slow it down enough.
Yeah.
I think quite a few rides have had similar things. And some rides, Boulder and Galactica, the two examples, are timed from start to finish. And if they complete the circuit but faster than the time that is allocated, it will shut down.
Oh. So if it's too hot and it's going really quick, then it means it can't run anymore.
Yeah. So as Boulder's something like 41.9 seconds.
Right.
If it beats that, it'll just stop.
I mean, that's good though.
Oh, yeah.
Because imagine a ride just going insanely fast.
Yeah.
Around like different, you'd get G-forces that you didn't really expect.
That's what you want. Sounds good to me.
Wow, yeah.
So, weather has a big impact, really.
Yeah.
But I think parks are usually set up to deal with the most common weather of their region, right?
And that's the thing, like, there's no one park where you kind of get, well, I guess there's some places where you get all the extremes, but you normally have an average day kind of thing.
Yeah. So all of these parks in hot regions their systems should be set up to deal with hotter temperatures, hotter base temperatures, and, like places that are, say, really cold will try and deal with that and so forth. But yeah, there's it probably gets way more technical than what we've gone into here.
Yeah.
This is just kind of a top level chat about it. But yeah, it is interesting to kind of know. I think the whole concept of roller coasters could be faster or slower depending on certain variables is quite an interesting point.
That just plays into the whole thing of like you never really get the same run twice on a coaster because it's so variable depending on different things.
Yeah. If it's been a hot day and you're going towards the end of the day, ride is going to be flying through, especially wooden coasters. Again, like Wicker Man, start of the day, all right, but end of the day on a hot day, it's flying through. It must be going seconds faster. And when we went on Goliath at Wallaby Holland, they sent it around for a few test runs, but not many, like 3 or so, probably as many as is required to like safely operate it. And then it was our go, and they kept telling us the time every time we went round, and we were shaving off like half a second here,
Really?
half a second there, and obviously it decreased over time.
Yeah.
But it really speeds up by heating up the wheels and stuff like that.
Wow.
So.
I mean, it's interesting because something you never really think about. So, like, designers of roller coasters have to, like, really consider this, but when you just ride in them, you don't really think about how it affects it at all.
Yeah, the designers have to consider loads of things, really.
Yeah.
You got to consider the whole length of the train as well. Like, what point of the train do you design your forces around?
Yeah.
Because obviously the front and the back are going to be different to the middle. So some points of the ride you'll have to design for the middle of the train, but some points you'll have to design for the extremities. Be like, well, the back of the train can only get to this amount of force, so I'm going to have to limit it here, which is going to have a knock-on impact on the front and the back. So it might be boring in the front and the back, but good in the back. Sorry, boring in the front and the middle, but good in the back, because you're at your limit at the back, So
Very complicated.
it is. Good thing they've got a lot of computer systems with all of that going on.
What a nightmare without that.
Simulations and stuff. Otherwise, back in the old days, you couldn't really do that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's about it for this one. If you have any ideas for stuff that we can talk about, then send it in. We're always looking for new stuff.
At CBR Podcast on Twitter.
Yep, you can find us wherever you want. But yeah, that's it for this week.